Ranger Chad stands in front of a P51 Mustang red-tail aircraft.
How's it going, folks? Ranger Chad here again at the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site, and it's time for another Tarmac Talk. So today we're going to continue the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. Last time we finished up with some of their training that they did. Here we're going to start talking about their combat experience. Now, in order to talk about their combat experience, we do have to kind of bridge that gap from Moton Field to when they get deployed. And really, a lot of this took place at another installation just about 6 miles away from us. That was known as Tuskegee Army Airfield.
An inset picture, black and white, of historic Tuskegee Army Airfield, showing all 4 runways and over 200 buildings.
Now, when we think of Tuskegee Army Airfield, it's really what we would think of as really kind of a modern-day airbase. It had everything from 4 runways, over 200 buildings. It even had a hospital right there on location. Unfortunately, nowadays, Tuskegee Army Airfield is privately owned and doesn't really have anything still left over from the 1940s or the World War II era, and it is closed to the public. But take a look at this picture from the time period.
The inset picture of Tuskegee Army Airfield now takes up the whole screen.
And you can really see just how much larger Tuskegee Army Airfield would have been than Moton Field. And it's at Tuskegee Army Airfield where the airmen would have gotten their final training, that basic and advanced flight training, and then graduated, being able to pin on those pilots' wings and being able to be officially called pilots. In April of 1943, the 99th Pursuit Squadron, which later becomes the 99th Fighter Squadron, was put into active duty. The first place they went was near Casablanca in North Africa, and they were being led by none other than Benjamin O. Davis Jr.
An inset black and white photograph of Benjamin O. Davis Jr. wearing full flight gear in front of his P51 Mustang named by request.
Now, most people really think of the P51 Mustang as the kind of quintessential Tuskegee Airman plane. But for most of the Tuskegee Airmen's time overseas, they were actually flying P40s.
An inset black and white photograph of 3 P40 aircraft flying.
And their main mission wasn't bomber escort like we'll see later on, but it was actually attacking targets from the air to the ground. And the Tuskegee Airmen really took on a lot of different things, everything from train depots, enemy air bases, all sorts of different ground targets that they would strafe from up above. The Tuskegee Airmen faced challenges overseas as well. When they got overseas, they didn't have veteran fighter pilots to kind of show them the ropes. With white units, there were veterans that were kept over from the previous unit in order to teach the new pilots really the specifics of what was going on in the theater of operations. As the Tuskegee Airmen were the only African-American fighter pilots, they had no veterans in order to show them the ropes. Not only that, they had some detractors from military brass. For example, Colonel Moyer.
A black and white inset photograph of Colonel Moyer, a white man, in his full military uniform,
actually called out the Tuskegee Airmen as being ineffective and lacking aggressiveness. Now, Benjamin O. Davis Jr. really fought back against those.
An inset black and white photograph of Benjamin O. Davis Jr. in full flight gear in front of an aircraft looking off into the distance,
showing that the Tuskegee Airmen were just as aggressive and were really just not being used properly during the battlefield or in the battlefield. And in fact, Benjamin O. Davis Jr. went up to the military brass in order to defend the Tuskegee Airmen, which instituted a report to really evaluate the effectiveness of the Tuskegee Airmen. The report ended up showing that the Tuskegee Airmen were at least as effective as the other military units in the Mediterranean theater during the war. By 1944, the Tuskegee Airmen were deployed to Ramitelli Air Base in Italy.
An inset black and white photograph of the Tuskegee Airmen huddled around a map in a Ramitelli Air Base room.
But it wasn't just the 99th Fighter Squadron. By this point, the 332nd Fighter Group had been built, and it had 4 total fighter squadrons, one of which included the 99th. Now, when the Tuskegee Airmen get to Italy, they start doing more bomber escort missions.
A full-screen black and white picture of the U.S.'s military strategy for the Air Force. The words are unreadable, however, it does show the Germans peeling off American fighters in order to attack the bombers.
And this is a really important point, is that a bomber was about 8 times the cost and had 8 times the crew of a fighter plane. And Colonel Benjamin O. Davis Jr. recognized the strategic importance of keeping those bombers protected. So he ordered his men to stay with the bombers at all cost. And this was pretty important because one thing that the German fighter aircraft were doing was actually having about half of their force pull away, so the escorting fighters on the American side, leaving the bombers really open to attack. With the Red Tails staying with the bombers really no matter what, instead of chasing off for those kills against the Germans, they were able to have an excellent record of bomber protection. Now it's my favorite part of our virtual tarmac talks, talking about the planes that the Tuskegee Airmen used. And really by the end of the war, the Tuskegee Airmen were flying bomber escort missions, flying the P51 Mustang.
A full-screen, full-color, modern replica of a P51 Mustang flying through the air.
Which is really the plane that they're most associated with. We do have a full-size replica of Captain Williams' P51.
A panning shot of the life-size P51 Mustang red tail replica with the name Captain Robert W. Williams written on the side. It is covered in both battle scars and dirt.
Right here in our museum, and the P51 is really a pilot's plane. It had the maneuverability, it had the speed, and it had the ability to gain altitude that the pilots really enjoyed. And probably most importantly, it had the ability to go the distance. A fully loaded P51 Mustang with external fuel tanks could go almost 1,000 miles, which was really important for the Tuskegee Airmen when they had their last or their longest mission all the way into Berlin. The Tuskegee Airmen left a record during the war that was really quite amazing, and it really speaks for itself.
A spreadsheet detailing the combat record of the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II. Target, aircraft in the air, 112 destroyed, 25 damaged. Aircraft on the ground, 150 destroyed, 123 damaged. Barges and boats, 16 destroyed, 24 damaged. Rail cars, 58 destroyed, 561 damaged. Factories and other buildings, 0 destroyed, 23 damaged. 40 fortified gun encampments, 3 destroyed, 0 damaged.
Now, it's sometimes said that the Tuskegee Airmen never lost a bomber, and this is a myth.
Spreadsheet continues. Destroyers, 1 destroyed, 0 damaged with an asterisk rendered inoperable. Horse-drawn vehicles, 15 destroyed, 100 damaged. Motorized vehicles, 6 destroyed, 81 damaged. Power transformers, 3 destroyed, 2 damaged. Locomotives, 57 destroyed, 69 damaged. Radar installations, 1 destroyed, 8 damaged. Tanks on flat cars, 0 destroyed, 7 damaged. Oil and ammunition dumps, 2 destroyed, 0 damaged.
The Tuskegee Airmen did lose about 27 bombers during their bomber escort missions, but that was less than half of the counterpart fighter pilots that were flying in the same area with the same equipment. So the Tuskegee Airmen really just did an amazing job and really earned the trust of those bomber pilots they were escorting. So much so that they were often requested in order to escort those bombers because the pilots knew that if they had the Red Tails behind them, they would make it home. And this is all the more impressive when you look at where the starting line was for the Tuskegee Airmen, so much further back than white units that they were flying with as well. When you look at the Tuskegee Airmen, their legacy of perseverance and dedication really lasts much longer than even just the war. Well, thanks for joining us here on our virtual Tarmac Talk again. Once again, I've been Ranger Chad here at the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site. Now, if you enjoyed this video, add us as a friend on Facebook to keep up with all of the different happenings happening out here at our site. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to add them down below. And if you have any ideas for another Tarmac Talk idea, add those as well. I'll be looking at those to see what our next Tarmac Talk is going to be all about. Thanks for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.